The Canon C80, brand new camera, recently announced and looks super darn impressive. And it looks like Canon is continuing the line of these sister cameras for their bigger brother cinema cameras. Like the C70 was a sister camera of the C300 Mark III, and now this C80 is a sister camera of the newly announced and not even released C400. And this lineup looks really impressive, but one thing that I'm not too big of a fan of is the body design. Looks like Canon is continuing to stick with the body design of the Canon C70, which, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I've never really liked at all. I feel like this body design is almost like a mix and mash of a bunch of different things just kind of like put together. It's like a Frankenstein of a build, and it just doesn't seem to, I mean, I get why they're doing it, but it's also very, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work in a lot of cinema style situations. Essentially, it's almost like a photography camera, DSLR style body with a cinema camera slapped to the back of it. You have ports on the side, and then you also have buttons, not in a dedicated space, and so they're kind of like, there's some here and there's some on the grip, and there's some over here and some over here. It's just all over the place. And you can really tell the design of this brand new C80. First of all, they give us a hot shoe mount, which is pretty amazing. It's Canon's multi-shoe unit mount, whatever it's called again. It has that connection with the camera. Super cool, but they placed it behind the top handle mount, which is kind of janky looking, and you really can't, you know, when you have a top handle on it, you can't really put anything on that mount, and then when you have something on the hot shoe mount, you really can't use the top handle. It's like, it doesn't seem to make sense. And then they gave us an SDI port, which is pretty awesome, but then they kind of just slapped it onto the side of the body on the top. It's almost like they really didn't know where to put the SDI port. They were like, I don't know, there's no room for it, let's just, you know, glue it on the top. And so they did that. Looks super janky. But looks aside, looks is not that important. I feel like the main thing is that this style of body really doesn't suit a cinema style setup very well. Again, I get why they're doing it, because it's supposed to be sort of like mimicking that mirrorless style of camera, right? Like you're supposed to hold it like this and shoot it like a mirrorless camera. But then it is still a cinema camera, which means that there's certain scenarios where you might want to rig it up. You might want to throw a V-mount on it. You might want to, you know, have a Terra deck on it. You might want to put cinema glass on it, and then you might have a matte box, and it's just gonna get so heavy at some point where holding like this is no longer viable. They give you a top handle, so they know that at some point they want you to hold it, you know, by the top handle, waist level, maybe tucked closer into the body. But then when you hold it like that, like a regular cinema camera, close to the body, the LCD screen is like really close up to your body. It's like you have to shoot it like this, and you know, it's super uncomfortable, and your neck's gonna get screwed up, and it just doesn't work as a cinema camera. I think it'll be a lot better if they can somehow move the LCD screen closer to the front of the camera, maybe as like an external LCD monitor kind of a thing. But if they don't want to do that, it'll be cool if they can integrate it into the handle. It's kind of like those old camcorders. I don't know if you guys remember the old camcorder styles where they have the LCD tucked away under the top handle, and then you can kind of pull it out and then, you know, rotate it out, and you can even do it on the other side as well if you're, you know, if you're holding it by your left hand. I think that will work very well for this style of camera. Also, going with this mirrorless style kind of body, you have all of your ports and inputs on the left side of the camera. And that's fine for a, you know, mirrorless photography style camera, but when you have a cinema camera, there's a chance that you're going to be throwing this on your shoulder on a shoulder rig. And in that case, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a bunch of cables just jabbing onto the side of your head, and that's not fun. And also, again, like when you put it up here, that LCD screen is most likely going to be behind your head, which means you can't see what you're doing. Yes, I get it. You can put an external monitor on there, but the LCD screen is actually very usable, right? It's very bright, it's very nice, and has touchscreen. And so, I mean, even with an external monitor, I feel like I still want to have access to that LCD screen, but it's just going to be behind my head basically if the camera is mounted right here. The last thing I want to talk about is the grip. I mean, I get it. It's like a photography style camera kind of a grip, but you know, Canon is not new to a rotating grip, right? A lot of their cameras have rotating grips on them, and I feel like that's something that they can integrate into this style of body as well. I don't know if you guys remember, but Canon used to have a line called the XC10 and XC15. It's like a smaller style cinema camera with a smaller sensor on it. It's a really impressive body design because they're able to put a rotating grip on that tiny little cinema camera body. And I feel like if they can do it there, they can definitely do it on this camera. But body style aside, this camera is still very impressive in terms of specs and feature-wise. It's basically almost like a C400, not quite there, but pretty much like, you know, almost there, right? But it's in a much smaller package and also a much smaller, more affordable price point, and that's really cool. I was looking at the specs earlier and it's just super impressive. There's a lot of frame rate options, there's a lot of different codecs to choose from and resolution, so I think all in all, it's gonna be a great A cam for a lot of us indie filmmakers and videographers out there. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Are you guys gonna be upgrading from your C70, or if you're going to be upgrading from something else to the C80? Is the specs and features enough for you guys? And also, how do you find this style of body? Because that's one thing I'm very curious about. Are you guys okay with it? Are you guys used to it already? Or are you guys really liking this style of body? Or are you guys kind of like me, where you think this style of body is a little bit questionable and would rather have a much more classic and traditional cinema style camera body? Anyways, that's enough for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.